Hello, everyone. Guillaume Natuel here, host of the E-commerce Wizards podcast, where I feature leaders in e-commerce and business. Today's guest is Eldad Alfi. He's the CEO and founder of Alfi Trade and bluebat.com. And today we'll be talking about the transition from wholesale to retail and his entrepreneurship journey. So before we get started, we have a sponsorship message. This episode is brought to you by MageMontreal. If a business wants a powerful e-commerce online store that will increase their sales, or to move piled up dormant inventory to free up cash reserves, or to automate business processes to gain efficiencies and reduce human processing errors, or company, MageMontreal can do that. It's been helping e-commerce stores for over a decade. Here's a catch. We're specialized and only work on the Adobe Magento platform. We do everything Magento related. If you know someone who needs design, development, maintenance, support, we got their back. Email our team, support@magemontreal.com, or go to magemontreal.com. That's MAGE Montreal.com. All right, Eldad, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So, could you give us a brief overview of your path as an entrepreneur, how you got started and ended up here?
Yeah, I think for me, it all got started. I moved to America when I was 18 years old from Israel, and I immediately saw that there was, an opportunity with this new thing called eBay. I started buying things on there myself, and I was so impressed with the availability of the products and the pricing of the products, and I knew that this was the future. The ability to just go online, use a few keywords, find the item you're looking for. I called it click and forget. You click it, and back then it would take week, 2 weeks, and eventually you'd get your item that you forgot you even ordered. So I really enjoyed shopping online, and then my whole life I've been, a very entrepreneur spirit. In high school, I would sell flags on Independence Day, and I would sell fireworks to the neighborhood kids in a little pouch, and so I was always looking for hustles and ways to sell stuff
Was
and
that
trade.
legal, selling the fireworks to kids?
No, not really.
Okay.
That was a little side hustle. But yeah, I prefer to do more the legal route. So eventually, what I did is I started selling on eBay, and the reason I got into this industry of kitchen and bath is just because I happened to my uncle and my father were working together. They had a kitchen and bath showroom. So my first job in America was working at their showroom, helping them kind of get the products out to other showrooms and find dealers that are willing to carry the products that they had. And it didn't work so well for them. They were struggling to get the word out there. And eventually I said, hey, let me try to sell one of these items on eBay, and why not? And they said, okay, sure, if you sell it, this would be our wholesale cost that you would need to pay us for it. And I think it was like $100. So I said, okay, I'll start an eBay auction at $99 and see what happens. And it just took off from there. The auction ended at 140. I was stoked. I made $40 while I was in a class in college. And I thought to myself, wow, this is awesome. And the funny thing is that the first first time I ever sold something on the internet happened to be a buyer from LA. So I saw the address. I realized it was only 20 minutes away. So I got in the car, I grabbed the faucet that he bought, and I just knocked on his door the same evening that he bought it. And I said, hey, here's your faucet. And the guy was shocked. He bought a faucet on eBay in 2003 and got it delivered same day.
Yeah, even
So
today with Amazon Prime, you might not get that.
I know it was just a coincidence, and it was kind of like meant to be. And then I was hooked. And I just started going back to their shop and saying, okay, what can I sell? And they were like, well, this has been stuck here for a week. This has been stuck here for a year. Try to sell this, try to sell that. And I just started taking photos with my little digital elf camera, connecting it to the computer, transferring the photo, writing a little description. And back then, all you needed was one photo, a few words about the product. And it was practically like anything you put on eBay in those years would just sell. Um, and that's it. And within a month, I had an eBay store. And by the end of that year, I opened an actual company, formed it in California. And a few years later of just selling on eBay, I eventually finally opened my own .com. And and that was originally with an old platform called Zencart, which was really horrible. But that was the first one I experienced and got it going and had some sales. And had trouble with the shopping cart. So eventually I decided to kind of build something in house to make it more customized. That took a long time. And by the time we finally launched it, about a year after, I found out about Magento. And then I realized that I made a mistake. I shouldn't have spent all this time to custom make a platform that's struggling to perform. So we immediately started the transition over to Magento, and we've been with Magento ever since. It's been over a decade now.
Well, especially in those years when Magento came out, it was such a dominant platform, a fresh view on thing, and just like totally outclassed the that's a decade ago. Stuff like Zencart, and there was like Virtumart on Joomla and whatever else. So it's like when we saw that, especially for me, because I've been working on this thing for over a decade, it's like, oh wow, like okay, these guys, they've nailed it. That's next level. They didn't keep that lead forever, of course, but
No,
it was sort of almost a love at first sight on that thing. It's like, wow, okay, that platform, now we're talking something new just arrived on the market. So
definitely. And I think I started working with them before they got bought out by eBay. So once I heard they got bought by eBay, I was even more sure that this was going to be, the platform of the future. And I'm happy I did it. It was very easy to customize, and the number of modules and extensions made it so easy to customize without spending an extra few weeks of writing things. Almost anything you can think of existed. Um, and that really made it much easier. So it was a good transition, and that's why when I ended up a few years after that creating a wholesale company called Alfi Trade, and beginning to do drop shipping for other e-commerce companies, I immediately decided to use Magento for my website, even though it has no shopping cart. It's a B2B website that's just used for a catalog. So all I did was simply disable the add to cart feature, but everything else is still based on Magento. So now it's a system that we're already familiar with here at the company, and that's where we put all the product data, and people can search for it. They can do everything but checking out. And all of our dealers use that as an online catalog instead of flipping through the printed books.
Yeah, that's very common. Lots of B2B companies do that. It's sort of the digital catalog instead of having some kind of digital flip book. They have an actual website, and if appropriate, they might add on some additional features, such as the ability to either do a checkout with or without money. It could just be a purchase order, so you have an actual order and so on. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I almost started like you. I did create a small eBay shop back in the day, and I was starting the agency at the same time. And then eventually it was taking too much time. I had to choose which project do I kill, which project do I keep. It was a hard choice, but I chose the agency and I closed the eBay store. So, but then I continued sort of servicing that for client and doing the websites, of course. So that's an interesting story. And you had the sort of the luck of not having too much trouble sourcing products. Then you had your family that had already all the connections that, hey, here's a bunch of faucets you could just sell. So that's an easier way to start on that specific aspect, because very often one of the challenges is how are you going to source those products and source them at a good price that you know
Yeah, definitely. I think over the first decade when I was getting started, and a lot of my friends, we were in our early 20s, and everyone was asking me, how are you doing this? What, like, I want to sell on the internet. What do I do? How do I get started? And I always told them the same uh, recommendation is think of what access you have to some product that could be either superior quality or superior price. If you don't have that specific direct access to one of those things or know how to find it, you're going to have a hard time just being another random seller of a similar product on the internet. And for me, that what happened to be the kitchen and bath industry, and that's why I stuck with this. But I did try other things over the years, like you said, different projects, and I just had to kind of kill them and continue with this. There was a time where I was thinking, if I already know how to list and sell online and ship and drop ship and do all this e-commerce stuff, why am I just selling sinks and faucets? Why don't I sell other things? And then I was thinking, what's the most expensive but smallest item I could get? I was trying to, so I was thinking, I kept buying SD cards for my cameras, and I thought, why don't I sell SD cards? So I went online, tried to find a supplier, tried to become an authorized dealer of SanDisk. They said no. They're like, who are you? And
minimum order is that much. Like, oops, okay.
yeah, exactly. So I kept trying different types of products. There was a time where my website was split in half. Half was kitchen and bath, and the other half was hookahs. I started
Oh, gosh,
selling
okay.
nargila. Yeah,
Okay.
because that was something that I had a connection to, and I started importing directly from Israel these hookahs and selling them. And I didn't even realize that paraphernalia was illegal to sell on eBay, so they shut me down within a few weeks. So I was stuck with my entire hallway in my parents' house, all the way to the ceiling was full of 300 hookahs. I had to move the couch.
You're the coolest guy of the neighborhood then, you know?
Yeah, so that ended up becoming a whole side business for a few years as wholesaling hookahs to smoke shops all over LA County because I couldn't sell them online.
Okay. Oh,
So there's
that's
been other
yeah.
side hustles along the way, but this has been the most consistent that I, decided to continue with, and it's been 19 years now.
Yeah, and you have a key point there. What can I ship that is expensive, valuable, but is lightweight and small? And then, I had started with jewelry and diamond rings and stuff like that, exactly for that
Yeah,
purpose. But that
exactly.
has some other problems. You didn't want to be a pet.com from back then. It's like, yeah, but you ship the dog food, but it's so heavy and large as a package that like it doesn't make any sense when they could just go buy it at Walmart. So
Exactly.
yeah. Okay.
Even diamonds was something that I tried. I had a friend from Israel that was very big in the diamond industry. So I said, hey, let me get in with you. I can sell it on eBay. And he sent me a shipment of $20,000 worth of diamonds. And I listed them and tried to sell them, but it just didn't catch, didn't work. I don't know. Sometimes,
There's a question of the trust that was difficult because you're on eBay. Like, will I pay $1,000 for that? When you're a small seller and you're just starting, you didn't have maybe enough reviews or enough online credibility as a big jeweler. You're
yeah,
not Tiffany and Co. who started listing online somehow. So there's a question: will I get a scam with my $1,000 diamond or not here? So there was
right,
that question of for the bigger ticket item, it's more risk for the buyer.
for sure.
So you said that you did a transition from wholesale to retail. So from a lot of merchants I speak with, a lot of the wholesalers, they would love to sell retail. They love the margin. Very often the concern there is like, okay, but then we will offend our network of retailers and or distributor if they are manufacturers. And then, okay, that could like damage or kill our business. So they often don't dare to do the move, but most either manufacturer or distributor tend to dream to do the move of switching from wholesale to retail. So let's talk about that, how you've done it, what kind of obstacles you faced, and what was the journey there?
Sure. So that's definitely a very valid point, and it was a very kind of sticky situation when I started the second company because I didn't want to step on anyone's feet, and I didn't want to create a conflict of interest. The reason that I decided to go for it is because I actually started with the retail side first. So what I did is then add wholesale and started selling to my competitors. So it's a little easier as opposed to having wholesale, having a network of dealers, and then saying, you know what, I'm going to actually compete with you now and launch and create my own retail site. So that already made it a little bit easier. But still, I knew that it would be a bit of a conflict of interest. So that's why there's completely two separate company names and two actual companies formed. There's Blue Bath and then there's Alfi Trade. Both are separate companies, different addresses, different phone numbers, even with a different area code. Because in the beginning, it was very kind of secretive that we're owned by the same. Over the years, that really disappeared because nowadays it's much more common. And I could give you an example all the way to the top of like Sony, right? Sony, you can go to Best Buy and buy it, or you can go to Sony.com and buy the same TV. They're not hiding the fact that they're selling direct to the consumer anymore. In today's environment,
They don't
it's a
have to.
complete,
Sony's so powerful. Like, will Best Buy really stop listing Sony?
yeah,
So
they can.
no.
So that's the environment of today's market, and it goes all on their like the factory website, the brand website. many times has a shopping cart. And the reason they do that is and still stay in business is that they simply protect the price. So if you do want to sell without separate, these are the options I always tell people. If you want to do it without protecting the price, you have to have two separate companies, so that there's no tieback, no direct tieback to know that this is actually them. The other way is to set up a MAP policy and to really enforce it. And then whether it's you directly, the brand selling, or another 100 retailers, it shouldn't bother the other retailers because the price is the same. So
Yeah, the
at
minimum
least,
advertising price. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of companies have gone that route and just they do go direct to consumer, but they adhere to a certain price so that they give the dealer a chance to compete.
Yeah, because if you do have 100 resellers and now you have 101 reseller and the other one is the source, but they respect the price, they don't undercut anyone. I mean, there's not much of a difference. Like, okay, there's one more that was authorized. Doesn't change much, you know.
Yeah, they still have a bit of an advantage because
Sure.
it's Sony.com. It's people realize, oh, this is direct. It's probably gonna be, maybe it's shipped faster. Maybe I'll get a better price. They just feel that kind of. But on the other hand, the
Customer
other retailers,
service. Customer
yeah,
service. Yeah.
warranty, tech support, that kind of thing. So they have that advantage. But the other dealers hopefully have their own clientele, and otherwise they're not a dealer that would make sense to even have. A lot of people are. I get about one or two inquiries a day on my website of alfitrade.com of people clicking on the become a dealer link and saying, hey, I'm about to launch an e-commerce site, or I just launched a site. I'd love to become a dealer. And we check their website and it has 5 visitors a day, or very, very small guys. And back in the day, 15 years ago, when I started the wholesale, anybody who reached out, I was like, great, another dealer, another dealer, another dealer, and just added anyone I could get. But in today's environment, everybody lists on the same marketplaces. Everybody pays the same two search engines to drive traffic. So these little guys are not generating any new business for me. If I let another 10 small online dealers become my dealers and starts listing my products, all I'm doing is taking away from my existing 100 dealers that I already have selling my products. So in today, what we do is we really only onboard new online dealers that have a significant visitor count to their website. So we know that they already have their own unique clientele. Maybe people are coming for sofas or windows or other building materials. And now they can sell them also my plumbing fixtures. Those are the type of customers that we really like to add because they're driving new business and not just taking away from business that would have come from search engines or so on.
And how do you check that? Do you ask a copy of their Google Analytics, or you just use the Alexa toolbar or something else?
I actually use a little website that gives me like Alexa. There's another small website called Visitor Detective.
Okay.
I tend to use that a lot. It just gives you one number, which is the estimated number of daily visitors. But Alexa is good also. It gives you much more details. That's kind of the first thing we check to even see. Then we check how long they've been in business and if they have any other like online presence and sponsored ads and things like that. And we make a decision on that. We also ask them, where else do you sell besides your .com? And they'll tell us we sell on eBay, we sell on Amazon. And sometimes, which is lately the majority of the times, they tell us we only sell on marketplaces. So nowadays, there's tons of online dealers that don't even have a .com. They're only marketplace sellers. And they'll sell on 6 or 8 different marketplaces all at once using tools like Channel Advisor or Channel Sale. And that allows them to manage everything from one platform and list on multiple marketplaces, which is what I use also at bluebath.com. And the same thing happening on my side. Bluebath.com today, the majority of our sales comes from marketplaces. Only about a quarter of our revenue comes from the .com itself through Magento.
Yeah. And the benefit is the margin because, Amazon, depending on the category, will typically eat at least 15% of your margin. So you still have benefits, but of course, the volume and the power of Amazon and Marketplace is undeniable. But
Yeah.
it's fun.
Uh,
But you don't own the customer and the relationship with the customer. You're like an anonymous faucet provider, and then you just
yeah.
ship the thing, and that customer has sort of no loyalty typically, unless you can really position the brand strongly or create some kind of ecosystem. Like let's say for the like the gear here, okay, but they make the light, but then they make the stand for the microphone, and then they make that other thing here, and they make the switchboard, and they make so you can start to sort of like Apple to buy all the things. You buy the iPad, the iPhone, the watch, and this and that. So unless you're able to sort of have that kind of brand presence and interlinking products to create an ecosystem, it's more difficult to earn customer loyalty on marketplaces like Amazon. You just Amazon
Definitely. Yeah.
don't want you to. They purposely,
No.
you know.
Yeah. They don't want you to call the customer. They don't want you to include marketing material inside your box that will try to get them to buy from you next time direct. Those are kind of frowned upon practices. They want you to just ship the item and stay quiet on the side. Let us keep this customer. And um, there's pros and cons to it. When I started the .com, the reason I started it was because I was tired of paying the marketplace fees, and I thought, why should I lose this 15% when I can just sell it on Magento and make all that money? But it was a misconception because driving the traffic to the website costs many times more than 15% cost of sale. So you're now paying Google to drive the traffic to your website so you could sell marketplace free commission. So when you
Yeah.
look at it like that, it's not really free. The only actual free sales you get are the organic traffic, and that's always in most websites that are e-commerce these days. That's usually less than half of the traffic, or much less than half, comes from organic. So what I decided 2 years ago was a big pivot point with bluebat.com. We were spending at the time over about $20,000 a month just on Google ads, whether that's shopping, text ads, things like that. And the cost of sale was many times going over 15%. And what we were doing was we were competing with our listings that show up on Google Shopping anyway through eBay and Amazon and House and Walmart. So we're listing our product on 6 different marketplaces. These marketplaces then want to drive extra traffic to themselves, so they list at their expense on Google Shopping. And then Bluebath is listing at his expense on Google Shopping. So my same product is listed 5, 6 times. There, no matter who you buy it from, it's Bluebath. So with Google, I can easily get up to 17, 18. Sometimes I hit over 20% the cost of sale because it's just the marketing, it wasn't very optimized. With the marketplaces, it's a flat fee no matter what, a 15. So it's much easier to build that into your margin structure and know that you'll always make this much money. With Google, I just never knew what I was going to make by the end of the month because many times it exceeded the 15. So at some point, what we decided is let's give it a try, see what happens if we just disable all paid ads. And we went from 20,000 to spending zero. And that was 2 years ago, right before COVID. And since then, we don't spend a dime on advertising anymore at all. Our sales come entirely from organic traffic to the site and marketplace sales that take their 15%.
That's ideal. It saves you 20K a month when it's possible, because I understand like you cannibalize yourself with all these ads. But
Yeah.
depending on what you sell, we know here, of course, what it is. But you then there's a switch toward more like lifetime value instead of trying to make a lot of money on the first order. You want to for sure break even, ideally make a bit of profit if possible. And then if it's possible to have a repeat customer, then we can see more lifetime. Of course, if the person is just renovating their bathroom, how often will that happen? Well,
Exactly.
it might take a while, but maybe they'll renovate the kitchen next year. You don't know. But it's more challenging in an industry like yours to have a lifetime value mindset than if you're in apparels or any kind of other fashion or beauty products or stuff like that you can say, oh, let's just break even on the first order, and let's really build in a lifetime value pipeline here. So as long as I acquire customers at cost, then I'll make money on order number 2 because I have my stuff in order here, and strong
Yeah.
solicitation, SMS, and emails, and let's keep our analytics in order so we know that we're making money on order number 2 with customers. So more advanced
Yeah,
stuff.
you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly why it was much more difficult in my industry, because the repeat customer rate is much lower than other verticals.
Yeah, because the repeat business would mostly be on the wholesale side when it's a constructor, a developer, a builder, a renovator guy that comes often to buy more and more material from you. Of course, he's going to shop with other places, maybe a bit of Home Depot, a bit with you, a bit here, a bit there, but at least that would be a repeat customer. Then you can think more easily about lifetime value to acquire one such distributor or construction guy.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. That's how it is on Alfi Trade side. We have about 400 offline kitchen and bath showroom dealers across the country that are buying from us on a regular basis. Some of them buy only once a year, some of them buy once a week, just depends on their size. And then we have a network of about 100 online dealers that will sell our products on the internet. And so it's just those 500 plus new ones adding on every week. But that's our network, and they'll just keep buying again and again because there are our retailers. On Blue Bath side, it's like every day we're selling to 20, 30, 40 new customers, brand new every time. So it's there are some that'll come back a year or two later, and like you said, they did their bathroom and then they're doing their kitchen next. That's the chance for repeat. But usually, because all of the products we sell are for construction, not something that you could buy from us unless you're under a construction period and you have a professional installer. Um, People only tend to do remodels like that, every 10 to 20 years. So unless they separated between the kitchen and bath, it's really hard to get them back.
Yeah, totally understand that part. Yeah, that's for sure. Anytime you get into like several thousand, several tens of thousands of Google ads, I can definitely see benefits of exploring other channel to acquire traffic or the organic or to even like pay a content writer, say, okay, how much it's going to cost me to come up with like 1,000 word, 1,500 word articles and just like start churning those out. And let's for simplicity stakes, let's pretend that you get 100 visitors a month on your article and you used to buy visitor from Google at $1 per visitor, that so that traffic is worth like $100 a month, with this simplistic example of 100 visitors that read the article each month. It used to
Yeah.
cost $1, but of course that then depends what's the purchase intent from that traffic to that article. Is it as relevant as when you had maybe a buy faucet, the keyword? That's probably way more than $1 a click, um, for the targeted stuff, but totally
Yeah.
it's worth it to explore other sources to diversify your traffic. In your case, you just shut it off, totally say, hey, let's save 20K. That's fun at the end of the year if you can put it straight to the bottom line and say, hey, okay, 240K straight to the bottom line at the end of the year. Why not? It's good, pretty good for small
It,
business.
it was a very interesting experiment because what happened was it cut our sales in half, which seemed very horrible. But on the other hand, our profit in dollars grew. So we ended up making more money at the end of the year with half of the amount of sales, which means I didn't need I had one employee less. We were much less busy. We were providing better customer service for the people that were buying from us. And now all of a sudden, we're making more dollars, more money than we did when we were selling twice as much and just running, spinning our wheels to help Google make money. And we were left with almost nothing. So I'm happy with the decision. But I know that, there is ways to also get back into it, and then try to find maybe a more optimized advertising, maybe not spend 10, but spend 5 in a very specific place. The problem with spending a loan budget is if you're not managing it in-house, it's very hard to find a management company that'll take on something with a spend under 10K because they have their minimums. And that was our tough point. We were looking for years for a good management company that can run our AdWords and campaigns, but a lot of them have a $2,000 minimum. And if you're spending 10K and then you're spending $2,000 just to manage that, plus they take another 10% of the ad spend, it's really makes it so much more difficult to get an ROI. When you're spending over 20K, that already now is much easier to hide in the management costs. So it's always hard for the small guys.
Yeah, and that is true what you're saying, but those are sort of normal high number. can refer you somebody. So I don't offer that service, but for sure, you could find people for like $1,000 a month sort of flat rate for management. Sometimes even without any percentage on their ad spends up to a certain amount, and that are solid enough company, like a smaller company, maybe 10 employees, 20 employees that manage pay-per-click advertising. So that helps with the profitability right off the bat for sure, to not pay that 10% and let's say 1,000 instead of 2,000 a month.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting story that you're sharing. Thanks for sharing that. That's
Yeah, sure.
quite interesting. And let's say if there's another merchant out there and they're considering to go, I should not say merchant, like distributor. They buy from a manufacturer, maybe they import whatever, and they want to go direct, like you've done. You said in your case was a little easier because you had done retail before. Do you have any sort of other advice for them? Okay, enforce your MAP, minimum advertising price policy. And by enforce, I mean monitor it. You probably need some kind of automated tool that checks the marketplace if there's any people violating the MAP. And then you have to reach out and enforce it. Is there anything else that you have in mind that they should do to sort of make it happen and not have their whole network of supplier explode? You know.
Yeah. One thing is that they can make a fair playing field by if you're on the manufacturer site, on the brand's website, and you go to where I can buy this, and it shows you a list of online dealers and maybe another list or a map of the offline dealers, to just throw yourself in there as one with the other, just if and not just try to like say, here, buy from us and push only yourselves. That'll show the dealers that you're still kind of trying to give them some of that business. So that's one of the things that we do on alfitrade.com. And we throw in Blue Bath there as just one out of 30 different online retailers that we say, like, here are our preferred online retailers, and Blue Bath is just thrown in there with the other 29. So we're saying you can buy our stuff on Home Depot or Lowe's or Blue Bath or Walmart, and the customer gets to choose. We're not trying to say, hey, buy it on Blue Bath, pushing that too hard. That's one way that you could do it. But the map is definitely going to help, because their biggest concern for dealers is, hey, if you're selling direct, you could always beat our price. So that's not fair. So once you solve the price issue, that's already going to alleviate most of their concern of you going direct. And it doesn't help to just create a map policy. That's the easy part. The hard part is the enforcing. And it's almost impossible to enforce it yourself in-house. You'd have to have someone every day going, running searches, making spreadsheets of the violators, sending them emails, and you would quickly realize you're wasting your time. So there's companies out there that will do that for you, but now you have to be ready to spend that extra $500 or $1,000 a month that they want for their bots that do this, and automatic email notifications and first violation, and then what happens with the second violation. Now maybe you have to actually pause dealers that are violating the third time, and it creates a whole department of map enforcement. So that's not easy either. There was a time where I tried map, and we quickly gave it up, because we realized we just didn't want to deal with that enforcement. And today we're running for years now without a map. The only way we can control kind of our pricing is by deciding who gets what discount. And if sometimes we have online dealers that are very small, kind of mom and pop shops, maybe 5-6 employees, or even just a couple working from home, and their margin is much lower, and they just want to beat any price they see online. But if they start beating my big customers that are giving me, the majority of my sales, like Home Depot and Lowe's, Home Depot and Lowe's will get very stressed out and threaten to shut us down. And so we're always trying to keep that balance by just controlling who gets what discount. So if we get a dealer that is violating and selling just way too cheap because he's willing to make such small margin, we'll reduce his discount, and that's how we play with it. We also give a better discount to our offline dealers, the brick and mortar stores, than we do to our e-commerce, which many times is the opposite, because the online dealers have such a bigger buying power, and they're spending in many cases 100 times more than a kitchen and bath showroom would buy from us in a year. You would think that I would be giving them the better price, But in fact, it's the reverse. Because I don't have a MAP policy, I need to make sure that if someone walks into a showroom and says, I want an Alfi brand faucet or sink, and that person goes online and sees other prices from big box retailers, he needs to know that he can always tell his customer, no problem, I'll match that price. If he can't do that, he won't want to keep my catalogs in his showroom and ever bring it up, because they don't like bringing up brands that someone can at the store get on his phone and say, hey, I can buy this on Amazon for cheaper. They want to know that they can always match any price that people see online. Otherwise, they don't feel confident even talking about your brand.
That is a very critical piece of knowledge that you just shared here for someone who wants to put in place a discount level and price to, and also if the person is buying more from you, like the online seller, and you give them a bigger discount in addition to what you just explained, your margin takes a hit. So you have to be careful. Yes, it's logical. Oh, bigger volume, bigger discount, but be careful how far you go, because imagine you just had like 3 huge customers that buy 80% of all your capacity, and you give them the biggest discount imaginable, and then you have like almost no margin left at the end of the year, you know? So
Exactly.
we have to always be careful with that aspect. So I like how you're doing. And for those who do want to enforce a MAP policy, well, you've lived it. It's difficult. There's software that can monitor that. And I think you can have consequences for like first offense, second offense. Maybe the first one's just a warning, but second offense, you can start to right away chip at their discount. I think that can be a very good incentive. That hey, you violate it, fine, but slap on the finger is money. So next time you get less percentage and less percentage each time you violate, and then we'll suspend you temporarily, and then we'll suspend you permanently. So that can be a good incentive. Money talks there. That's for sure. That's for sure. Okay, that's pretty good. And in terms of like getting, let's say, to be a provider for places like Home Depot or Lowe's or other big retail chains like this, how did you go about it, and how did you succeed to pull that off?
Yeah. In my beginning years of wholesaling, starting in 2007, the majority of my dealers were smaller mom and pop shops, kind of like Blue Bath is, a smaller online dealer that you can talk directly to the owner, push your product, hey, why don't you add my new brand to your site? You'll sell well, and convince them that way. But with the big box stores, every time I tried to get in and go to corporate and become a vendor portal on their website and fill it out, and it was like I always reach dead ends. I even went to trade shows, and I had booths at trade shows. That's actually how I acquired one of the big box stores, like Overstock. So he just came to our booth, one of the buyers, liked the products, gave us a card. We had now the card of the actual plumbing buyer of Overstock. Talked after the show, and we scored Overstock as a new dealer of ours. And that's the same thing that happened with the other big stores. So we tried to get Home Depot. It never really worked. One day they found us, and from a whole new angle, they came to us. So the takeaway really is, like, if you can't get in with these big box stores, just keep going at it, keep getting bigger, branding your products, and eventually, if you make enough noise, they'll come to you. And that's really the best way to get in. It's kind of like organic versus sponsored ads,
Yeah,
so that's how it worked with them. With Lowe's.com, the way we got in there is that they actually acquired a smaller e-commerce operation that we were direct with. And when Lowe's bought them out, we now became a Lowe's vendor. So we were really happy with that purchase, because it allowed us to get into Lowe's. So there's just, you have to really be out there, have as many dealers as possible, have a good product, have good service, and they'll come to you. That's actually what happened with Amazon as well. Blue Bath was selling on the Amazon marketplace, and so was many of our other dealers that we were wholesaling to. And we tried to say, how do we work directly with Amazon 1P? And again, wasn't able to sneak in. At one day, we get an email from Amazon 1P saying, hey, Alfi Trade, we noticed your products are selling well on our marketplace. We'd love to go direct and set up a relationship with you. So that's how it started with them as well. So almost all the big box, they ended up kind of coming to us when they were ready.
And how many years did it take for your business to sort of make enough noise that the big names started coming to you?
Yeah. So I started the wholesaling in 2007, and I would say it took about 5 years. In 2012, 13, that's when, if I look at my customer base, that's when we went from 150 dealers to suddenly just having 50 active dealers because we started adding the big box stores. And today, those are the 80% of our sales comes from the top five, which is Wayfair, Build.com, Amazon, Home Depot, Lowe's.
Yeah, very important.
And we're always also worried about that because we don't want to have too much of our percentage of revenue in one retailer. So at this point, the risk for us is that Home Depot has reached a percent of 20. So 20% of the company's revenue is one dealer, and that's already a bit risky for us. So we're constantly trying to diversify and not give one retailer that much power. It's ideal if they don't pass the 10%.
For sure.
So that,
For
you
sure.
know, so that's something that we're constantly working on by adding more smaller dealers and more brick and mortar stores, to keep that balance, not
Yeah.
be an online only brand, but have that store presence. It really makes a difference in how people see your brand.
I totally agree. And even when you go like above 5%, 10%, one client, it's natural that when you have such huge stores, but on your side, you can even affect like your company's valuation if you try to sell it when they acquire might say, hey, yeah, but what happens if you lose Home Depot, then that company's worth like 20% less or something. So,
Yeah.
There's that. But like, as you said, you just grow the other side of the business to try to diminish that 20%, even though the number there doesn't diminish ideally, but it's
Yeah.
unavoidable. If you have something like Costco that distributes you and they distribute like $20 million a year of your merchandise, I mean, of course, they're going to be a big percentage of your company unless you grow like nuts on the other side.
Yeah.
So it is sort of unavoidable. And there's another topic that I wonder, like you already covered it partially, how you accept, let's say, new distributors, but how do you accept, let's say, another person? How do you decide if another person should start selling your product on the marketplace or not on Amazon? Like, how do you decide, will I accept yes or no one more Amazon dealer?
So nowadays, the position that we're in as an established brand with a big network of sellers already, if someone approaches us and they're a marketplace only seller, we normally deny the request because it doesn't help to have 15 or 16 sellers on a SKU on Amazon. It won't create any new business for us. It'll just create more competition between the existing dealers that we have. And that doesn't have any benefit to us. So if they're a marketplace only, we're not interested in adding additional people like that because of that fact that it's not new business.
Understandable, totally normal. And you don't have a map policy, but I'm curious, is there some kind of a gold nugget that the new distributor, potential distributor, could sort of throw at you to pique your interest and say, yes, I'll actually add the 16th? For example, maybe they
Yeah.
say, you know what, map enforcement is a hassle for you. I'll help you with that. I'll set it up. I'll cover the cost, and you'll have full transparency, full access of everything. And I'll send you the report. Okay, you do the enforcing. You're the brand owner, but like I'll give you all you need to know who's violating your map policy. Like, would that be sort of a big enough gold nugget for him to throw at you and say, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll have you."
Hmm. Um, I don't know. Map is always a scary subject for me because once you tell people you have map and then it's not happening, then they complain to you even more. And I also, because I'm on Bluebath and I have on that side I have 150 dealers myself. I mean vendors. So I know I work with many vendors and brands that do have a map, and I can see how many times they will violate their own map. Many
Oh
times
my, okay.
they won't enforce it, or the most ridiculous thing is that they say, okay, there's a map, but then now they're overstocked on this SKU, so now they want to run a promo. So they're like, okay, so for the next 60 days, forget this map. Now there's a sale map. Now everyone can sell at this lower price, and it's just happens every single month. So it's like a map when you want it to, but they say never mind about it when they don't want it, when they want to just move the product. So it's still flexible. And another solution that we didn't talk about is that some brands decide to go a whole third route, which is creating a separate type of SKU. So they'll have a brand that's just for e-commerce and a brand that's for brick and mortar stores. It's the same exact product, but it has two different SKUs, and that's a way to kind of separate the competition between online and offline.
Yeah, okay. Costco kind of does that because they want exclusive brands. So, for example, if you manufacture one product for Walmart and the same product for Costco, they will ask for unique packaging, but they will also ask that it has some widget that's unique to it. Maybe it's the thickness not the same. Maybe it's metal instead of plastic, like whatever. But like it's unique to Costco. That's the Costco product version. So that's what Costco does.
Yeah, or they'll ask them to brand it as Kirkland with their home.
Yes, that's for sure. White label. That could be it too. Kirkland.
Yeah,
exactly. Huh. Okay. Well, this is a pretty interesting discussion, Eldad. I'm enjoying this. Do you have any last thing you'd like to share with the merchant, like a shotgun questions? Anything top of mind?
I always say just give it a shot. If you have an idea and want to see if it'll work, don't talk about it too much. Just go for it. Give it a shot. There's not a lot to lose when it comes to e-commerce. If you're using a drop shipper, it's really the only investment is the time. So it's always worth trying out and trying multiple things at the same time, and then going with the one that works, shutting down the one that doesn't. But you just have to get your feet wet and give it a shot. Otherwise, you'll never know for sure.
It sounds good. And if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
My email is eldad@alfitrade.com. And that would be the best way. If anyone has any questions or anything, I'd be happy to help.
All right. Well, thank you for being here today, Eldad.
All right. Thank you.